Bags, what's going on? It's Landon Remixes here, and it is time for a little bit of a different video, a different kind of video than I've ever done before. Today I'll be doing my Eden Madness bracket. Now, if you guys haven't seen any of these kind of going around on YouTube, there have been different critics like myself who have gone in and taken these brackets for some of their favorite artists, and some of my personal favorite artists. I saw Anthony Fantano do a Kendrick Lamar one that I was really interested in, and that I probably would do myself if I covered more Kendrick Lamar on this channel, but I decided to actually make my own for Eden. Basically what we're going to do is I have every Eden song in a bracket, and you guys will see it somewhere on the screen. I haven't actually edited that together at the time of me recording this, but I have every Eden song listed plus a couple other ones because he doesn't actually have 32 like available streaming songs that are originals. Therefore, the 32 song bracket is comprised of songs from the End Credits EP, songs from the I Think You Think Too Much of Me EP, and songs from the Vertigo LP that just dropped a couple months ago. And then obviously that doesn't add quite up to 32, so then I also have a couple singles and covers. I have Hey Ya in here, I've got his cover of Billie Jean, I've got Pierce Fulton's remix of Nocturne. There are a couple other ones that you guys will see in here that I kind of threw in the list just to make it come out to a nice even 32, but let's kind of get to that as it goes. And I think at the time of this video going up, I'll have a picture together so that if you guys want to do this bracket as well, it'll be available. But I did make the bracket. It's all randomized based on the list I put in, so I think it's going to be cool, and I'm really excited to do this because it's been a long time since I did my top 10 Eden project video, and now that Eden, like himself, under the new alias, he's got like a lot more music under that alias, thanks to I Think You Think Too Much of Me and Vertigo. There's a lot more stuff I can talk about. You guys have been requesting for me to do another Eden top 10 video. I just don't think it's like super fitting because at least as of now, I could see myself doing it another few years down the road if he has a couple more EPs and another album or something. But in the meantime, I think this will suffice because this will kind of go through my opinions on his newer stuff and kind of give you guys an idea of what like a top 10 would look like. And I'm actually, I have no idea what's going to come out as number one because I haven't really had a favorite Eden song. I mean, the top Eden song, when I did my top 10 video, which I'm going to have linked at the end card if you guys haven't seen that, the one that came up as my number one Eden song was Interlude, and that was on the End Credits EP. So it's like there's still a lot of music that's come out since then, and I don't personally consider Interlude to be my favorite Eden song, but it could come out at the top. It all really depends on what songs get matched together, you know, and which songs I end up, you know, picking above the other. It's all going to be rapid fire. I haven't really looked too much into this list so far or thought about my answers, but yeah, no, let's just get right into it. So our first bracket matchup in round one here is Fumes featuring Nash versus Wake Up, and that's a relatively hard one. I mean, I'd say if it came, like if I was doing this list back when End Credits came out, then I may have picked Fumes. There's a good chance that I might have picked Fumes because that would have still been part of the Eden Project discography. When I'm thinking of taking Fumes in the context of I Think You Think Too Much of Me and Wake Up in End Credits, I'm probably going to go with Wake Up. I mean, I don't think Nash's verse was absolutely amazing, and I mean, Fumes is still a really great song, and I do enjoy the Nash version, don't get me wrong, more than I used to, but when it comes down to just my opinions of the song, I feel like Wake Up just has a lot more emotional attachment to it. I feel like it was kind of Eden's first like big piano ballad song, and I think yeah, I think that might be the only one up until Vertigo, at least. I don't think he's really done another like emotional piano ballad. So that one, yeah, I've got a lot more emotional attachment to. I feel like the lyrics are a little bit more relatable, although that's not to downplay Fumes. And, you know, There's going to be a lot of great songs in this list, a lot of really hard choices, just given the nature of it. I mean, this is my favorite artist we're talking about, and trying to count these down is just going to be hard. So I'm going to go with Wake Up, going to put that in as the next song. Then we've got Take Care and Drugs. Take Care, not necessarily a bad song. I did note in my Vertigo review that I really liked the build-up at the end. I think the transition out of Wrong and into Take Care is really cool, although I wouldn't say Take Care was really a highlight for me on the Vertigo album. In fact, I'd probably put it in like the lower tier Vertigo songs. I think Drugs is personally just more of like, it's not necessarily even relatable, but it's just a fun song. Like I remembered when I saw Eden when he was doing his Future Bound tour, one of the highlights for me was seeing Drugs, and everyone just, I'm a fucking freaking out. And then of course it's also like a return to form. There are some definitely some, you know, throwbacks in that song to his Eden Project sound. It's really the most like EDM song he's done as Eden, so I think it's a little bit more of a standout than Take Care, at least for me. So continuing on, we've got Lost Found and Forever Over, two of the more acoustic leaning cuts on Vertigo. And if you guys saw my review, well, I might not have actually mentioned that in my review. My favorite of the more acoustic leaning tracks is Forever Over, so it's not going to be hard for that to keep moving on. Lost Found was not my least favorite of those. I think I'd probably, out of the most chill songs on the record, I'd say Wonder was probably my least favorite of those. But I think Forever Over for me, a little bit more relatable. And Lost Found, you know, it's good. It's a good song. Like I enjoy the lyrics. As I mentioned in my review, I enjoy that contrast of Eden losing himself and finding God. I think that was really cool. But Forever Over is just the most relatable. It might even be my favorite on Vertigo. So gonna give it to Forever Over. Up next, we have Falling in Reverse versus And. I remember I had some complaints about And my first time listening through I Think You Think Too Much of Me, and those don't necessarily still hold true. In fact, I think I started to like And a bit more when I saw Eden on the Future Bound tour, because he actually opened with like 0209 and that was like the intro, and it was really odd to see those two together, but I think it worked out really well. I do like And. I think I prefer Falling in Reverse in this case, just seeing the two next to each other. I mean, neither of them are anything that crazy or spectacular, I guess, but Falling in Reverse just really wraps up Vertigo in a really nice way. I've talked about those, you know, those reverse chords in the song that Jonathan sings over. And, you know, actually this song ends up kicking off if you have the special edition like vinyl version of Vertigo, this actually starts the album, and I think it starts the album in a really cool way if you start on that song. And it doesn't really have that same effect. It's a short interlude in I Think You Think Too Much of Me, and though I don't think it's bad, I just don't think it's in the same tier, so I'm gonna give that to Falling in Reverse. Up next, we've got a bit of a hard one. We've got Wings versus Start End. Wings has actually grown on me a lot with just about every passing listen of Vertigo. Start End, on the opposite hand, it's like I really loved it when it first came out as a single. When it's taken in the context of Vertigo, I don't think I enjoy it as much as I did as a single. Like it's just a totally different context to take it in, and my expectations, like I mentioned in my review, were completely subverted because of the way Start End worked out. But that also being said, I don't think I'd pick Wings over Start End. Like when you just boil it down to the technicalities and really everything Jonathan was trying to do with that, I think Start End is just the superior track. And though I would consider Start End one of my favorite Eden tracks, I think Wings is up there too. I personally really enjoy that one. So I'm going to give it to Start End, but this is a really difficult choice here. Next up, we've got Float versus Rock and Roll, and this one's not going to be as hard of a one for me, although I think Float is a cool track. I really enjoyed just the weird sampled percussion. I think the lyrics are a little bit shallow, at least when we're putting them next to Rock and Roll. Like Eden got really personal and really deep with that song, and I love the guitar like the ripping guitar during the break or whatever you want to call it. It's not that hard of a choice in this case. I'm going to put Rock and Roll above Float. Up next, we've got another hard one, Crash versus Nocturne. Nocturne, obviously, from the End Credits EP. I'm not sure if I've said this before. End Credits EP is my all-time favorite musical body of work, and Nocturne is a fantastic track. I didn't know what to think about it when it first came out, just because it was so like crazy different than anything he had done as the Eden project, and it was hard to get used to that. On the other hand, Crash, I was blown away almost immediately. And it's funny that we just went up against Rock and Roll, because the first time I heard Crash, I thought they were two kind of similar songs. When it comes down to these two, like I said, I do love Nocturne. I think it's a fantastic track. Really led Eden's career in a really interesting way. I think I'm gonna pick Crash. Like just the fact it had more shock factor for me, like even more than Nocturne did the first time. And though I personally do have a lot of feelings for Nocturne, I think Crash is just a fantastic track, and I think other people resonate with that a lot too. I'm going to give it to Crash. Like, really not an easy choice here though. Next we've got Love Not Wrong Brave versus Gravity, and it's just all hard ones. This is terrible. Gravity, it was in my top 10 Eden video. I don't like listen to it, I don't spin it, I guess, as much as I used to back before Vertigo came out. So it's like currently I'd probably go for Love Not Wrong Brave. It's the newer song, obviously. Both have a lot of emotion packed into it, so it's a tough one. Like there's no easy answer here. I'm gonna give it to Love Not Wrong Brave. I feel like I'm picking all the new songs. This is awful, but I do think I want Love Not Wrong Brave in there. So next we've got Eden's cover of Hey Ya by Outkast versus Circles. This one's not going to be a terribly hard one for me to do. I think a lot of other people connected with Circles, at least Eden's older fans, people who were listening to him even before I was, because I really only caught on right before he released Bipolar Paradise, and Circles is like I think maybe a year behind that, maybe a little bit more. I always thought Circles had some weird mixing problems, and it was just a little bit of an odd track for me. And although I do like it now, and I think it fits really nicely on the I Think You Think Too Much of Me EP, I think it finds its place really well there. I really like Hey Ya, and I think it was in between like EP releases. All I had to listen to was Hey Ya, like for new music anyway, for a really long time. It made me fall in love with the original song by Outkast a lot, and I think Eden's tone kind of represents the lyrics behind that song a little better. And yeah, Hey Ya, it's a really great rendition of that song, and I really like it. So I'm gonna give it to Hey Ya above Circles. Next we've got Catch Me If You Can versus EXO, and I'm gonna feel bad about this. I'm actually gonna go with EXO. I don't think that's that hard of a decision. It's tough for me because I always want to go for the less mainstream option. At least in the back of my mind, but I think EXO is just the superior song. It was kind of weird, like at the time it released. It was a really odd song, like kind of Ed Sheeran meets like just weird electronic music vibes. It was a different kind of song for its time, and although it does have probably more pop appeal than like almost any of the songs on this list, I think it's just a really cool song, like lyrically, with the production, everything's just very different. And Catch Me If You Can, nothing necessarily wrong with that, but I'd find Catch Me If You Can in like a similar vein to, Lost Found or some of the other acoustic driven songs. I don't think it's necessarily like a huge standout, at least in this context. I think EXO is going to be the winner here. Next we've got Wonder versus Stomach It, and that one's not going to be too hard for me. Wonder is probably my least favorite song on Vertigo, and that's not to say it's bad. Like I've said, Not meaning it's a bad song. I do personally enjoy it. It's not like I skip over Wonder because it's so bad or anything, but it is my personal least favorite on Vertigo. Stomach It, on the other hand, is probably my favorite Crywolf song. If you guys didn't know, that's a song that Eden, like, I think it's the only song he's officially featured on, is Stomach It by Crywolf, and he actually lended some of his own production to that song too. I think the production is pretty fantastic, and both the vocal performances I really enjoy, though I don't think Eden and Crywolf's vocals are anything that go that well together. I would put it above Wonder, so I'm going to go with Stomach It. Next we've got Gold versus Icarus, and that might be another tough one. Just they fall in very similar places for me. If I were to rank Vertigo, let's say, they'd probably end up falling in pretty similar places. I'd probably go with Icarus just because I think the beat changes are fantastic on that song. I think the lyrics dig a little bit deeper. Gold is a fun track, and I love the synth on that. I didn't love Gold originally, I wouldn't say, when it first came out as a single. It took me a lot of listens before I really started vibing with it at all and kind of getting what he was trying to do with it. But Icarus, I think, is just, it's obviously the longest song on Vertigo. I think it's got a little bit better wordplay, I suppose, would kind of tying into the story of Icarus. And I do think Gold is great. I think it's in probably my top percentage of Vertigo songs, but Icarus would probably just come out on top. Next we've got Billie Jean versus Interlude, and this is going to be another one that's not terribly hard for me. I do like Eden's cover of Billie Jean. I think it's an interesting version, though I wouldn't put it in the same ranks as like Hey Ya, for example, which, like I already mentioned, really takes the meaning of the original and accentuates that with Jonathan's tone. But I don't feel entirely the same way with Billie Jean, and I think also in terms of the production, the song is also pretty similar to EXO, and it kind of came out around, I think, within probably a year span of that. It was one of the earliest covers he did as Eden. On the other hand, Interlude was the number one, like I've already said, the number one ranked Eden song in my top 10 Eden project video. I don't think it's that hard of a choice. I'm going to put Interlude above Billie Jean. Next we've got Pierce Fulton's remix of Nocturne versus End Credits, and I don't think I put Nocturne through, so this is going to be really sad that I'm going to completely, End Credits is going to be the one I push through, and that might not have been the case, but I guess it's a pretty obvious choice. I do like End Credits a lot. It was the kind of kickoff track, really, for the End Credits EP. Obviously after 0209 and everything, but this was a song that had a little bit more pop appeal, made me really excited about Eden's future. This also placed in my top 10 Eden project video. And then he also, I don't know if any of you guys have seen him on the Vertigo World Tour, but I think End Credits, spoiler alert, is one of the songs that he plays, and one of my favorite moments from the live show is when he played End Credits. So I'm going to give it to End Credits. I don't think there's any way I really wouldn't put it through here. Not to say Pierce Fulton's remix of Nocturne is bad, but I do think End Credits is the superior track. Up next, we've got another kind of difficult one, and I'm not even sure I could make like a solid decision on this. We've got 0209 and Restart. 0209 is the intro, if you guys didn't know for some reason, the intro for the End Credits EP, which, like I've said, is my favorite musical body of work of all time. I will admit that. Sadly did not give that EP a 10 when I reviewed it initially, but one of my favorite intros too, and even if it's just like for the most part, it's really a basic 2-chord structure the entire time, but the way it builds up is really like no other song I've really heard before. On the other hand, Restart is the outro for the special edition of Vertigo, and it completely caught me off guard the first time hearing it. It's split into like 3 different parts, and it's a really interesting song. We've got some oldies that Eden kind of does, and then the poem that he does at the end is just absolutely beautiful. So I don't know. It's a really tough one. Like I think Jonathan would personally prefer Restart just because there's more packed into it, I guess. It's like 0209 though is also When it comes to overall playtime, I think 0209 would get it, but that's really just because the special edition of Vertigo didn't come out that long ago, and it's like it's hard for me to listen to this song on repeat because the inconvenience of the vinyl. So it's like, personally, I feel like I have more of an attachment to 0209, but also like when it comes to just the amount of things that are packed into it, I think Restart gets it, and I'm gonna give it to Restart, and I hate to kick 0209 out in the very first round, but like, I gotta do it. Next up, we've got two that are in kind of a similar tier. We've got Sex and Wrong. Obviously, Sex is the first track on the I Think You Think Too Much of Me EP, and then Wrong is the first song on Vertigo. Obviously, Vertigo, I think, I'm probably just going to end up giving it to Wrong. I think Vertigo is the superior project out of both of those EPs, and I think Wrong does a little bit better kind of setting the tone. I think I've mentioned how, at least in my I Think You Think Too Much of Me review, that Sex kind of set the tone in a really weird way, because I assumed the EP was generally just going to be more pop-fueled because of that song being as a lead single, and then it just kind of flipped it on its head a little bit. I think Wrong personally does do a little bit better, kind of with that a cappella nature. And then also I think Sex is at an unfair disadvantage because the song is my wake-up alarm sound. Obviously, I do like it enough to put it as that, but the song has just gotten so obnoxious for me. It's hard for me to not kick it out in the first round. I'm going to give it to Wrong, and yeah, that's completely biased, but let's just continue on. So going back to the top, we've got Wake Up versus Drugs, and that's going to be a bit of a hard one. And obviously it's just going to get harder and harder with time. Wake Up, obviously, really nice ballad by Eden. I might be apt to give it to Drugs, though. It's a little bit of a funner song. It has more of a callback, but then Wake Up's also got a lot of emotion packed behind it, so it's a tough choice. You know, I really got to give it to Wake Up. Like, I'm never gonna live it down if I give it to Drugs. So, not to say Drugs is a bad song. I think it's fantastic, but I'm gonna give it to Wake Up. When it comes to Forever Over, though, versus Falling in Reverse, I will gladly give it to Forever Over. Not much of a competition there, in my opinion. Forever Over, debatably my favorite track on Vertigo. It's just fantastic. A lot of emotion to it. Also made out to be one of my favorite moments on the Vertigo live tour. I actually might have come to tears a little bit during that song, just thinking about my own attachment, my own friendships, and things like that. I'm going to give it to Forever Over, you know? Up next, we've got Start End versus Rock and Roll, and man, that is a tough one. When you put these tracks, it's interesting how I said at the beginning of this video that it's really any track's game in this poll, because Start End, I think it's fantastic. I think it's a really great track, and I think Rock and Roll is really great too. I'm going to give it to Start End, though. I don't think, for some reason, seeing these tracks next to each other, it's like I really want to give it to that one. Then we've got Crash versus Love Not Wrong, Brave, and I'm probably going to give it to Crash, and I feel bad about that. Like, I really legitimately feel bad about that, because you know, Love Not Wrong, Brave, I think is one of the highlights on Vertigo, one of the more happy leaning moments, and reminded me of some of my favorite works, like Times Like These that he did as the Eden Project. But Crash, it's a little bit more emotion packed behind it, some really interesting production elements. I think I got to give it to it. Then we've got Hey Ya versus EXO, and I'm gonna feel weird if I give it to Hey Ya. Largely because I think a while ago, it must have been a couple years ago, when I had looked at the Genius annotation for EXO, it had compared the song's lyrics, like the kind of tongue-in-cheek, the humor of it, I guess, to Outkast's Hey Ya, and it's like, I can kind of see how he took inspiration like that. It's a little bit of a happy song, but then when you listen to the lyrics, it's just on another level, I guess. Like, in terms of just having like a really weird dichotomy, I guess, I think XO is gonna come out on the top. Obviously, I do love Eden's cover of Hey Ya, but especially just seeing these next to each other, I think, and calling back to that the genius annotation, I think XO's got to come out on top. Then we've got Stomach It versus Icarus, and I feel like I have to give it to Icarus. Like, I don't want to take out Stomach It. It's hard, but it's also like I don't want to see it go on much farther because it's a feature, and Icarus is, for one, a lot longer of a song and much more centric around Jonathan's work with producing and all that jazz. It's got a more immersive story, I'd say. So I'm going to give it to Icarus. Then we've got Interlude versus End Credits, and that one's going to be another tough one. End Credits, obviously, one of my favorite songs on its respective EP, the title track. One of my favorite moments from the Vertigo live tour. Interlude is also just pretty fantastic, though, and it's like this is going to be a tough one. Just going by personal taste, it's like if I wanted, just throwing this out right now, if I just wanted to pick up one of the two songs and listen to them like right now, I'd probably go with End Credits. And it's like, I think Interlude is fantastic in its own regard, but End Credits is a little bit more accessible. I have a little bit more of an emotional history with it, so I'm actually going to give it to End Credits. Strangely enough, it didn't come out on top of Interlude in my top 10 video, but I'm going to give it to End Credits here. Then we've got Restart versus Wrong, and that one's going to be another tough thing. Actually, Restart would immediately follow Wrong in the Vertigo Special Edition, and I think I'm going to give it to Restart. I didn't imagine Restart was going to get 3 rounds in here, just because it's a little bit of an odd track, but I think what Eden says in the poetry of it is absolutely beautiful, and it's not like Wrong doesn't do that. I think it sets the tone in a really fantastic way for Vertigo, but I'm going to give it to Restart. I think it's one of the better like outro kind of tracks I've ever heard. So we've got Wake Up versus Forever Over, and this is going to be just keeps getting more and more tough because I personally do feel very emotionally attached to Wake Up, but it's also like, has the song ever really brought me to the emotional state that Forever Over has? And I think the answer is no. I think it's got a great story to it. I think it's just got a great progression, and that's not to say Wake Up doesn't. But in terms of how I can relate to it, I think just Forever Over would come out on top. And we've got Start End versus Crash, and this is only going to get harder and harder and harder. This is absolutely ridiculous because it's 2 tracks I absolutely love. Once again, just going back into what I had kind of said before, it's like Start End really has to come out on top just because of all the different things Eden was trying to do with it. It's got, the call and response chorus kind of deal happening. It's got some absolutely insane production, and it's not like Crash doesn't follow that completely, but I think Start End's got to come out on top. So yeah, going into the semifinals, I guess that would be Forever Over versus Start End. But next pairing, we've got XO versus Icarus, and I don't know. That's a tough one because just seeing them next to each other, it's not like I have one that specifically stands out to me above the other. I think they're equally fantastic songs, but for entirely different reasons. Like, obviously, XO, I think it might actually be Eden's shortest song, with exception to Wrong. XO and Icarus, man. So we've got like the shortest, most poppy Eden song, and then we've got a really interesting, longer song with a bit more of a story to it. I'm going to give it to XO. Like, I feel weird about it. I feel weird about giving it to XO, but I think it just makes more sense to me going into this right now. End Credits versus Restart. I'm going to give it to End Credits. I don't think it's fair to put Restart in this far at this point. I definitely got more of an emotional attachment to End Credits. And, Restart, like I said, it's great for all the reasons that I mentioned before, but I'm just not going to be able to do it. Now we're getting into the really difficult difficult ones here, because we've got literally I guess at this point it would be my two favorite tracks on Vertigo, which is debatably my favorite project Eden has put out. Obviously, End Credits is up there too. It's my favorite musical body of work when you just boil it down in something very accessible. But then Vertigo is also fantastic too. First album I've ever given a 10 on my channel, and here are my two favorite tracks from that album going up against each other. I don't know. This is a really tough one. I think whoever wins this round is gonna end up winning the whole thing. Just because I don't think EXO or End Credits for really either reason is going to go up against it. First of all, I'm going to do the other one first, okay? I'm going to give it to End Credits above EXO. And then, like, personally, like the song that I feel more personally emotionally attached to is Forever Over. I think Start End is going to be the superior track out of these in terms of what Eden was doing with it, with the lyrics he was kind of trying to pull forward with it. It's less personal to me. It feels less connected to my own story, but I also do see it in most aspects other than the personal lyricism. I see Start End as the top track here. So it's hard. This is a really hard one because before I even started this, I could have imagined Forever Over ending up at the top spot, but I don't think I can do it. So we've got Start End versus End Credits, two End songs, and obviously I said whoever wins the EXO End Credits round probably isn't going to win. I'm going to give it to Start End. All around a really fantastic track. If you haven't seen my track review of that, I get a little bit more in depth to it. At least when that song came out, there was not only emotion behind it, but I guess it was like Eden. It was like the first song he had released in I think 13 months. Before that, since the I Think You Think Too Much of Me EP, there wasn't really any music, any covers to go off of. And then Start End came out, and it was just absolutely mind-blowing. Like, very first single off of a fantastic album, and a fantastic first single at that. Like I said, got some similarities to Porter Robinson, where they just put out a really weird kind of not poppy track as the first single. I think Start End is just mind-blowing. And yeah, it's hard to do that, obviously. Obviously, I do love Forever Over for a lot of reasons too. I might even give that like my number 2 favorite Eden song right now. And personally, like I've said, the most personal song for me. But Start End, in terms of everything he was doing, and I think the production on that track too is absolutely fantastic. There's just a lot of really wonky things going on. I think he was really thinking outside of the box, and it's going to remain kind of in that vein for a really long time. I think Start End is just absolutely legendary. And yeah, I guess that's what it boils down to. So for at least for this bracket, this particular way things end up, and this is all just for fun. Like, obviously there were some inconsistencies with my Eden top 10 video. With End Credits coming out above Interlude and all that. So obviously this could change from day to day, and from the way everything's organized, just like comparing different aspects of it. But at least for this bracket, Start End is on the top, and I do think it represented me pretty well, at least with those top few tracks. And I think Start End deserves the spot. Like I said, if you haven't seen my track review yet, you should check that out. I'll have it linked in the end card. And if you guys want to download this bracket and have some fun with it yourself, I'm going to have the visual for it, maybe on the Eden Reddit or something. I don't know. I'm probably going to end up posting it there, but at least after I have this video finished. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this little video. I hope it gives some insight into some aspects of the songs that you might not have thought about before. And for the people who have really been wanting me to do another Eden Top 10 video, I hope this sufficed enough. I do enjoy doing this kind of thing, and if you guys want to see another one of these before March is over, which only gives me a couple days, but just let me know if you want to see this kind of thing a little bit more. I think brackets are really addicting, kind of fun. But I did enjoy this video a lot. really cool to kind of think about which songs just mean the most to me. And if you guys, like I said, I would encourage you to check out the bracket and let me know what's your favorite, or let me know what your winner, I guess, is down in the comment section below. Anyway, I'm Landon Remixes. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll catch you later. Peace.